everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny once more, and this time do some box office reporting on its opening weekend within cinemas, covering the period Friday the 30th of June to Sunday the 2nd of July 2023. Now there could be spoilers throughout for the movie, so just beware, and you can check out both my non-spoiler and spoiler reviews within the channel, as well as my reviews of previous Indiana Jones movies, and I'll leave some links for these all within the description. So then we go on to the opening numbers, and within US cinemas, the movie has grossed approximately around 60 to 70 million in its opening weekend, taking the number 1 spot from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which drops down to number 2 in its 5th week of release. Internationally, the movie has grossed approximately around 70 million for a rough estimate of 130 million total so far. So when we look at these figures, what do they mean? Well, honestly, we could say that it's just not that very impressive, given that Indiana Jones still remains one of the most iconic and culturally cinematic heroes within all of movies. Previous installments within the franchise were always the top or amongst the highest grossing movies of the year. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade were the top grossing movies in 1981, 1984 and 1989 respectively. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull had to settle for number 2 place in 2008 to The Dark Knight, but it was still a massive commercial success, grossing over 786 million worldwide. So just like Star Wars, James Bond, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones was a timeless franchise that should always be a massive hit whenever it's released. So for the movie to take only around 130 million, which notoriously is the same opening weekend take as The Flash, this is not a good sign at all, and definitely Disney and Lucasfilm would have had way higher aspirations for the opening weekend. So whilst I'm not saying that this should have made as much as Avengers Infinity War or Endgame in its opening, it definitely should have made a lot more than 130 million without question. But then we'll look at this from the other way. Whilst it's Indiana Jones, the fact is that Harrison Ford is 80 years old, and that fact alone would have made a lot of fans disinterested in this movie. Because, as we all know, Indiana Jones is a very physically driven character, and Harrison just wouldn't have been able to perform the role to our usual expectations. So if that's the case, then why should we get excited for an older Indiana Jones? Why would that make us as hyped? Why do we want to see Indy in his older years? We want to see Indiana Jones in his prime. So this movie here wouldn't have been as big a sell as what the previous movies were. Plus the reception of Crystal Skull really left a bad aftertaste for many fans who thought Ford was too old for that movie back then when he was 64 years old. So the reception of that film would have lessened expectations and hype going into this installment. So when we look at all of those factors, should we really have expected Dial of Destiny to be a massive hit? Yes, the generation of fans who grew up with the franchise throughout the 80s, such as myself, is still very active. But how much would have the movie appealed to the current audience? Fans today who are used to superhero movies, CGI animated movies, the more kinetic action filmmaking style of John Wick or Fast and Furious? Would that demographic have been endeared to a much more of a historical period piece adventure like Indiana Jones? I'm not so sure. I've seen some arguments comparing Dial of Destiny to Top Gun Maverick, and how that as well was a long-awaited sequel to an iconic 80s blockbuster, riffing on all of the nostalgia, and that movie of course went on to gross $1.4 billion worldwide last year. So shouldn't we have seen a similar turnout for Dial of Destiny as well? Well, I don't agree with that, because first off, Tom Cruise's profile was far more current and potent in the current cinematic landscape than what Harrison Ford's was, and this was largely due to the success of the Mission Impossible movies. Plus, even at 60 years old, Tom Cruise still has that persona and youthfulness that he could still look like a prime Pete Maverick when going into this movie. Top Gun also had that contemporary modern day look that could have related much more to current audiences. So I don't think the comparison with Dial of Destiny really works in practice when you apply the overall theory. Now what also isn't helping Indiana Jones is that massive $300+ million budget before you add on marketing costs. As we all know, that budget was high, likely due to all of the de-aging and digital effects, and I've covered on this channel multiple times on the importance of an Indiana Jones movie relying more on practical effects and stunt work. This is one of the biggest elements that made certainly the first 3 films so special. Had they applied more practical stunt work, it would have made the budget also a lot cheaper. So when we look at all of this, We then ask the overall question, how much is Dial of Destiny going to make overall? Well, I'm certainly hoping that it makes a lot more money than The Flash, but with very mixed to negative reviews, I think at best we're probably looking at around 400 to 500 million when it's all said and done. Yes, it will have another week free of competition, but then following that, it will have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which has already garnered a lot of positive reaction, and that probably is one of the last few films that has any shot at grossing $1 billion at the box office. So I think Dial of Destiny is going to rely heavily on the overseas market, like so many of these films do nowadays, and I will say it probably will cross 100 million domestically, with the maximum limit probably being around 150 million. So unfortunately, so far from this opening weekend, it looks like another big flop in the summer of 2023, and this goes alongside the previous entries such as The Flash, Pixar's Elemental, Transformers Rise of the Beasts, and also Disney's Little Mermaid and Fast X. And I think this failure so far is only going to give more ammunition to attack Disney and Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, and perhaps this is the latest lesson that these iconic franchises should probably just be left alone. So overall then, we'll quickly talk about the other massive flop within recent weekends, and that is of course The Flash, which had another massive 67% drop in only its third weekend, and it's still struggling to get to that $100 million mark within US cinemas after 3 weeks. This again is absolutely terrible, and when we look at the overall worldwide tally, it currently now stands at 244 million. So we've commented on this on previous videos that we said it was very doubtful that it would reach the 391 million reached by Black Adam, but at this stage it's actually looking as if the movie won't even get to 300 million worldwide. So this is again just a massive death knell in the whole Snyderverse, and also maybe the superhero movie genre in general, but we've covered this to death on multiple videos as to why the movie failed. I just think now we just need to wind down in terms of the DCEU. So we do of course have the upcoming Blue Beetle shortly, and then afterwards it will be Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now whilst I believe Blue Beetle will still get a theatrical release, will they decide to shelve Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom onto digital straight away, fearing a huge loss like with what we've seen with The Flash? We'll wait and see, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we saw that development play out in the upcoming months before that movie is released. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings on the opening weekend of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in terms of its box office total. Do you think this is a massive failure? Do you think that maybe somehow the film can hang in there over the next couple of weeks and steadily build its way up to what would be a respectable 700 million total? Or do you think that's out of the question and that we are indeed looking at another massive flop within Disney and also the summer of 2023? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as I've already mentioned, you can check out my reviews of Dial of Destiny and all of the other previous Indiana Jones films within the franchise, so look out for those as well. And if you have any other suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop, entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on those topics within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and I will see you very, very soon.